exact kind of feeling that I want everyone who passes through these doors to have. I want everybody to feel better when they walk out of Harborside Health Center than when you did walking in. I'm Steve D'Angelo. That's SteveDeangelo. Steve D'Angelo, Executive Director of Harborside Health Center. Harborside Health Center is one of Oakland's 4 city-licensed medical cannabis dispensaries. We are a nonprofit community service organization. The original vision for Harborside grew out of my own personal experiences. I've been a cannabis activist my entire life since I was 15 years old. As a nonprofit community service organization, I am in the wonderful position of, instead of having to generate profits and send profits to shareholders, any net retained earnings that we're able to generate beyond covering our basic expenses, we give away. And use that money either to fund our patient services program or to give donations to the community at large. And some of the ways that we fulfill that nonprofit mandate is with our holistic care clinic. Our holistic care clinic is open 7 days a week. It offers completely free care, acupuncture, chiropractic, naturopathy, nutritional counseling, and about 5 other holistic healing techniques to any patient, regardless of whether or not they ever purchase any medicine. They can avail themselves of those services. We hire established practitioners who have their own practices outside of Harborside. They come in here for a day or 2 a week. We pay them their normal fees, and then they provide their services to our patients free of charge. When I arrived here, I was really hoping to walk into dispensaries that would be, amazing sanctuaries of kindness and gentleness, that would be clean, that would be uplifting, that would be beautiful, where I would be welcomed warmly. I was coming from the East Coast and really expected that I would get this warm welcoming of the long-lost brother from the dark side coming into the light, right? But instead, what I found was that there were basically 2 types of dispensaries in 2001. Either those that were started by very well-intentioned activists who didn't have any business experience and didn't have any startup capital. Despite those handicaps, this very first wave of operators of dispensaries were very successful from a point of view of attracting business. And because there were no other alternatives, hundreds and thousands of patients streamed into the few dispensaries that had been opened by the well-meaning activists. This in turn engendered a second wave of cannabis dispensary operators, people who were really more interested in making money than they were in serving patients, people who often came from a background in illicit distribution, sometimes gambling, sometimes pornography, sometimes dealing of other drugs. And in both cases, with the activists and with the thugs, the facilities that they put together reflected their backgrounds. So in the case of the activist dispensaries, what you found most often was that you would go in there, people would not be very well organized, they wouldn't be very well trained. You could tell that somebody had just hired all of their friends and given them cushy jobs. People didn't really know where things were or what the policies or procedures were. The selection was very small. There was no real attempt to create a beautiful and uplifting environment. But the thug dispensaries were even worse, because you would go into these places and they would be bristling with barbed wire and bulletproof glass and great big thugs with guns on their hips. And they very soon started not only were they not serving patients well, but they also didn't serve the communities they were located in well. And you began to see a lot of problems in neighborhoods that had these types of dispensaries. And that caused, in turn, a lot of public relations blowback for the movement. We're here at the front door of Harborside Health Center. You'll notice that we have a metal detector here. Everybody passes through the metal detector. It's just part of our security culture, our dedication to keeping everybody safe. Basically, three types of people will come through that door, either new patients, returning patients, or patients who are bringing us medicine. Harborside Health Center has 53,000 members in our collective who have signed our collective cultivation agreement. So it's a large number of people. We see between 700 and 800 patients per day. Typically, on really heavy days, it can shoot up to almost 1,000 patients. This is our orientation room here. This is where we orient our new patients, where we check their medical cannabis identification, where we ask them to take a look at our collective cultivation agreement and sign it if they are comfortable with that. Also to take a look at our mission statement, our rules and regulations. When I saw what level the dispensaries in California were operating at, I realized that it was critical to create a new model of cannabis distribution, a model that emphasized responsibility, that emphasized compliance with the law, that emphasized legitimacy, that brought high standards of excellence and professionalism to an industry which, at that time, had little of either and desperately needed both. So the vision for Harborside was to bring that dedication to excellence, that dedication to the ideals of the medical cannabis movement into a dispensary. You know how there's some businesses that you go to and they may do some little special thing. They might compliment you on your hat or remember your order or ask you your name. Something that lets you know that you're more than just a walking wallet to them. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'll go an extra 3, 4, 5, 10 blocks to get to that place instead of another one. I'll wait in line for a few more minutes just to get that sense of personal connection. And when I recruit and I train my staff, I let them know that that's the exact kind of feeling that I want everyone who passes through these doors to have. Every 2 weeks, our staff goes through a brush-up course that introduces them to any new medicines that have been come into stock and educates them so that they can properly guide patients to those medicines. Our staff is trained to engage in a dialogue with patients to help them find the best type of medicine, because doctors really don't do that. Doctors, unlike with most prescriptions where doctors specify what type of pill and the number of pills to take and what time of day to take them, with cannabis recommendations, doctors simply authorize the patient to use cannabis, and it falls to our staff to help guide the patient to the proper medicine for their needs. And so the staff is trained to engage in a dialogue with patients to ask them questions like, what time of day are you going to be using this medicine? What symptoms will you be medicating for? What other activities will you be engaged in while you're medicating? What is your budget? What type of medicine has worked well for you in the past, and what hasn't worked so well for you? Through the answers to those types of questions, we can help guide the patient to the medicine that's best for them. And I'll give you a couple of examples. These cannabis capsules. The patient would take the capsules. They would take about 45 minutes to take effect, because when you swallow cannabis, it goes through your digestive system. I would recommend a sublingual spray. Patients just take this medicine, they shake it up, and then they spray it underneath their tongues. This would take effect in about 10 minutes, and it would have an effective period of about 90 minutes, which would allow the patient to bring their morning nausea under control, Of course, we have the world's largest selection of cannabis. We usually have about 50 types of cannabis flowers on our menu every day, about 20 or 25 different types of cannabis concentrates, and about 30 different types of alternative cannabis medicines, ranging from our capsules and our sublinguals to tinctures to a variety of edible preparations. One of the most exciting new products that we've seen are topical cannabis preparations. These are things that you either spray or smear on your skin. They're completely non-psychoactive, but they are very, very effective for skin ailments like psoriasis and eczema, very effective for arthritis, for fibromyalgia, for migraine pain, and for just general muscle stress, ache, pain, and soreness. Here's our library. One of the things, of course, that we're dedicated to at Harborside Health Center is educating and empowering our patients. So we want them to be able to learn everything that they possibly can about cannabis, about how to use it in a medical way, about how to grow it, about the history of cannabis, and the politics of the cannabis reform movement. So we provide this library. There's actually about 10 or 20 times as many books in the library, but it is a lending library, so the books rotate on a regular basis. Here you will see our altar, prayer and meditation space. We believe that one of the ways that cannabis works is by activating the mind-body-soul nexus in the healing process. And so we like to call out, have a space in the facility where we can sort of call on that spirit energy, where we can give a little bit of a place where patients can connect up with that aspect of the cannabis healing process. Our altar changes periodically depending on what's going on in the world. A year or two ago we had a huge oil spill here in the Bay, much as they're having in the Gulf now, and we put up an altar, a clean the Bay altar up. This altar that you see behind me is in honor of my dear friend Jack Herer, who is one of the huge inspirational leaders of the cannabis reform movement. Jack passed recently, and so we're honoring him with this altar. And we have a book here where patients have been able to come in and write their comments, their appreciations for this incredible man who has so inspired a generation of cannabis leaders, more than one generation of cannabis leaders. The initiative, which is on the ballot for November, the Tax and Regulate Initiative, will allow but not require local governments to license and regulate adult sales of cannabis. I suspect probably that if the initiative passes, that the city of Oakland, in keeping with its historical embrace of the future of cannabis, will probably be one of the first cities to actually license and regulate adult sales of cannabis. I would imagine that the city would build on the existing relationships that it has with facilities like Harborside Health Center that have developed relationships of trust with the city, have demonstrated that we will be compliant with all of the regulations, and therefore I would expect that Harborside Health Center would be allowed to start making sales to adult cannabis consumers, and at our door we would just stop checking for a medical ID and we would start checking for adult ID. Basically, it would, radically increase the size of our market. So I don't think that initiative can do anything other than help Harborside Health Center.